as I was saying, Cousin Jubal Pink was asleep in a closet at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was shocked to find him in the closet, and he kind of mumbled something about having a headache. It was like, yeah, if you don't sleep and stay out all night drinking and, shall we say, enjoying powdered donuts of whatever sort, you might have a headache. You might be tired. But, this shocking revelation kind of made me think, well, if you're not at your kind of heavy hitter design job downtown with your marketing firm, then what are you doing? And, his response was to mumble to me, I've been watching you. Say what now? So apparently, Sloth Goth had the nerve to set up a surveillance camera in my bedroom. Things were going left, friends, very quickly. Um, you know, this is a tale of what I call Hollywood scammer hat, where the Tinseltown users be at. The difference between New York and this scene is the roommates that smile while they scheme. Snakes in the grass, trying to slither fast. Lucky me, this scam is in the past. Thank God for that. So, I did not expect to find Cousin Jubal Pink in the closet. I did not expect that Cousin Jubal Pink was having, shall we say, trouble getting to work at all, getting to work on time, or just having a job. This was all very much shocking news to me, but, in a world of people who, aspire to live and work in Hollywood, who do absolutely everything that they can to try to get on, to make connections, to get that job, that high paying job, that, sort of set of friendships in the in crowd, it can still come with a huge amount of risk. And I just want to, sort of give you a big welcome to Halloweenness 2021, as if this global pandemic and this ongoing discoveries of the Native American boarding school scandal and gas prices weren't crazy enough. We have to kind of deal with some of our friends and family and people close to us going through changes that, Hollywood and its temptations can put them through. I want to thank the everyone in the First Nations Writers Workshop for encouraging me to speak my truth and commit to telling this story. Everything in this story of who we're calling Cousin Jubal Pink is allegedly and in my humble opinion, but let me lay the facts out as I know them. But it's a complicated story. You know, this rabbit hole of Hollywood is one where, yes, this drink might make you bigger or might give you a big ego or make you seem like a big deal. And this powdered donut might make you smaller and might cause you to fail in your endeavors. Like Alice in Wonderland, this town can definitely distort your visual perception, can change your body image, can, even alter your experience of time and your memories. Cousin Jubal Pink had a nickname, or really a professional brand, that kind of was a riff on hot coffee. But I had been friends with this dude for years. I'm gonna call him Cousin Jubilee Pink in this video. He often mirrored me to make it seem like we were alike, that we were both kind of nerds, we had family from Louisiana, that we were both soft-spoken, and I have to confess, like, there is a seduction of someone sort of saying to you, like, you're not like other Black people, right? In a world of other Black people who may mock you for the way you talk or the things you like. If you like comic books or anime, before there was like a prominent kind of black nerd or blurred community, black people who do cosplay. It took a little while, and it took Facebook and some other apps for us to find each other. But, I felt a kinship with this dude. But, you know, unbeknownst to me, for Jubal, the party was just ongoing and it never stopped. I call him Pink for the romantic and sexual hustle he was always perpetrating. He kind of looked like and styled himself like the Thundercat Panthero, if you know that cartoon from yesteryear. He was a big fan of Gem and the Holograms, and he said that he wanted to grow his kind of kinky 4C hair out and straighten it and make bangs, which seemed like quite a feat. But who can't relate to the difficulty of getting your natural hair to cooperate with your aesthetic? So, all of those things early on made him very relatable to me. I, have two very strong impressions from the first months after we met. One of the things that we would do was go out to eat in Hollywood. So we went for ramen near, if you know Jeff Wittick's apartment of the Vlog Squad in Hollywood, it's off Hollywood Boulevard, and there's a ramen place right there. After we had ordered our hot noodles with, whatever, pork belly or tofu, Jubal went on an unsolicited rant about how Asian women, meaning Japanese and Chinese, are the perfect women, how Eva Green, who played Vesper Lind in James Bond's Casino Royale, was also the perfect woman, how drag queens in RuPaul's TV show are better women than regular women. Did I know that he, cousin Jubal Pink, was close personal friends with Ru, as in RuPaul? Well, I didn't, but I did just then. I felt like he was discrediting and erasing me as a gendered person. But since we were just friends, I was like, be all the way you, buddy. Think what you think, want what you want, and, clarity is good, right? If we're just friends, it's clearly established at that point. The second really strong impression I had from that early time period was, Jubal had sublet my place when I spent a summer house sitting and practicing yoga in Santa Monica, just blocks from the beach. My friend Aiko had gone to London to edit a film and needed me to start her Beamer every now and again and keep an eye on things. At the time, she didn't know that she was living just a few blocks from where Whitey Bulger, the kind of Boston criminal, there was that movie, I think Black Mass with Johnny Depp, but they found him living there just a couple of blocks away. When I stopped by my Hollywood pied-a-terre where cousin Jubal Pink was staying, I discovered that he had piled all of the cooking pots and pans into the sink and had taken metal vases that were in the living room and decorative bowls that were filled with like shells or potpourri and used them to cook ramen. So here's a black man with an Asian food fetish, but without the home training not to, you use a dish, you wash a dish. You use a pot, you wash the pot. But in his mind, he had more important things to do, and it's just because I stopped by that he hopped up and went into the kitchen to do the dishes. But, what was curious was that, number one, he always would keep wherever he was staying, my place, his place, various places he had over the years, he would always keep the windows shut, turn up the heat. Didn't matter if it was August, September. It did not matter. He wanted the apartment airless and roasting. And it was kind of a problem for me because I like fresh air. I like to breathe, but he curiously didn't. And the other issue was that he would always wear clothes that were kind of either fitted or too small. I'm going to say too small because they were so tight. His pants, sweatpants would be so tight. They would barely cover his pelvic area. And then he would always have like shirt, sweatshirt, no, doesn't matter what it was, button down shirt that would be really short on him so that they were always kind of jumping up and showing, exposing his rib cage down to his navel and beyond. You know, black man, why can't you do the dishes like a normal person? Why are you wearing clothes that look like your little sister's? I didn't say that out loud, but you know, as Jubal washed every dish, he was compelled to dress me down. He was saying that, did I know that he was part of the sexual elite? Whatever that means. He explained, you know how when you're attractive, you are treated better and you get like free drinks and you get jobs easily and free stuff. And I said, oh, okay, like pretty privilege. Yeah, I guess. Then he told me he had been married and then divorced in San Diego and that he had practiced yoga at a much higher level than me. I guess I was supposed to feel some kind of way about that since I was just an intermediate yoga practitioner. He confessed that he and his wife had been active on some kind of like millionaire swinger circuit of exclusive adult parties. There was some phrase about elite sexualis. I guess that's Latin. You know, these events like Labor Day Freakend, you know, would be going on a weekend like this. And there was some kind of group called House of Black that they were members of, right? Some kind of like secret club or something. And I said, oh, that's cool since you're black. And he did not laugh at that. I asked him not to cook in vases and decorative bowls no more, and I bounced. So fast forward to 2019, you know, months before the pandemic, cousin Jubal Pink had been spending part of the year in the house that he shares with his male best friend in Mexico. And he had sublet a place in San Diego from some Frenchman. Who knows if that was someone who was involved in House of Black in that scene. And he also was working a 6-figure job doing motion graphics at Phase 4, a high-end digital ad agency, right? And this is the kind of like state that he was in when he moved into my apartment that I call Sky Cabana. The company where he worked was so fancy that workers got free access to a corporate gym in the building, and the building was a high-rise where cousin Jubal took me to their company party, and it was all like hipsters, you know, white and Asian mostly, maybe one or two other black people. It was sushi, vegan food on little bamboo plates, and you know, sort of biodegradable plastic tumblers of poulet frisé with berries in the glasses. It was all very Mad Men, and cousin Jubal looked the part in his, you know, tight-ass natty suits with flat front slacks in size medium, like tight. Had to be tight. Pants had to be tight. The shirts had to be tight. It looked like it was cutting off his circulation. It was so tight, but he was a slender dude, but you know, the whole aesthetic was like tight, kind of English, if you know certain actors who favor kind of tight suits like the Beatles, tight suits like just tight, everything tight. So curious. But, you know, cousin Jubal is a man who would spend $17,000 a year, is what he told me, on retail clothing from Zara, Ted Baker, Brooks Brothers, Prada, whatever his heart desired. He was an extremely social fella, much more so than me. He was, not only hanging out at that San Diego millionaire swinger House of Black scene, but he had a membership at the ArcLight and, was a regular at their movie theater that has a full restaurant and bar. He was on a first name basis with the waiters and waitresses. He would run a tab and have drinks with all different people that he knew and that he met. He would go out in Hollywood and run a tab at the Star Wars themed Scum and Villainy Cantina. He would, do in-kind web design and graphics for Hollywood goth bars like Das Bunker, Bar Sinister, and something called Cloak and Dagger. Stars, this is where the ground cracked open like there was a real live Southern California earthquake. The San Andreas fault came to Hollywood and the earth gaped open like a maw, right? This is the Halloween part. Cousin Jubal Pink had alluded to adult swinger parties in Hollywood at Bar Sinister where there was live, shall we say, adult performances with varying numbers of participants and in varying poses. Anything to seem edgy, I suppose. Something for the tourists, or bachelor party people. That's what I guessed. During my Hollywood adventures on set and in writing workshops, folks definitely have invited me personally, to swingers parties at mansions in the Valley, in ritzy areas like Pasadena and Chatsworth, at Club Joy specifically. One stunt coordinator who was bisexual insisted that these parties were where the real Hollywood deal making happens. And I was like, oh, word? Then why are you and I at the same job, working on the same show? If if you're so well connected from going to adult swinger parties and orgies and that sort of thing, then how come we're kind of here at the same place? Question that was never answered. Then on top of it, a lot of these people who are on these scenes, and I do have friends in Hollywood, New York, and Miami who are on these scenes a lot. Sometimes I think it's a generational thing. Guys can't be completely out and comfortable being either bisexual or gay or, kind of identifying the way that they actually like to look and touch and experience sex. So, they can kind of hide it, in my opinion, by going to these events where they can watch and be close to and tag team and all this stuff. If you just like watching people doing it, you can admit that, but, do you? It's not for me. I'm definitely not going to do that and think I'm going to get a job out of that. Is that naive? Who can say? In New York, during my college clubbing days, I've definitely seen different scenes, whether that's drag balls or drunk women at nightclubs where there was live percussion with the DJ taking their tops off on the dance floor, but they were with their partners, right? I've definitely been in bathrooms with people who were, enjoying powdered donuts or, what do we call it? Kush. But that wasn't something for me. I've been with people who were tripping on mushrooms on Soho rooftops, jumping around. I've definitely been with Ivy League students who were so, binge drinker drunk that they lost their shoes in the subway. Investment bankers roughing each other up because they've been drinking 8 or 9 gin and tonics. Adults party and they go to work. Can you really even do one without doing the other? Who can say? But I am, not really trying to be on that scene. I mean, I do admit that one time my friend, he was driving his registered nurse girlfriend's Porsche Cayenne and picked me up. We were going to go to Walmart. But his brother ran some kind of like swingers club out in the valley in like Van Nuys or somewhere like that, in like a private house. And he insisted that we just had to stop by. So, you know, I'm wearing like a flannel shirt and khakis and penny loafers, hair in a bun. I was probably wearing glasses. That's not, like, it's really not, I wasn't intentionally going to the swingers club, but I did go, and everyone had like a special insignia, and they had their special like nickname that they would use in the club, and some people were there with their spouses and had really expensive jewelry on, and there were single women there, and then they had all the like stuff, all the like furniture and equipment and benches and dark rooms and this and that. You know, I had a boyfriend who was a journalist at one point who had to go undercover in one of these clubs, tracking down some kind of financier who had purchased Southern insurance companies and embezzled money from them, and then spent all the money going to, you know, swingers and BDSM and those kinds of nightclubs in Manhattan. So my boyfriend had to go undercover with like lipstick cameras and try to find this dude, you know, put on like a dog collar to go undercover. It was wild. So, I mean, you know, again, adults do this stuff. It's out there in the world. I'm not judging that, but I am questioning whether, is this some authentic part of you that you're doing this? Is this something that you're only doing because of social climbing, right? And in both cases, of Cousin Jubal Pink and the stunt coordinator, is this their taste? Is it their authentic identity and sexual appetite, or is this just something that they're trying to do to get in with the in crowd, right? That's the Hollywood piece of it, social climbing. But back to Thanksgiving 2019, Cousin Jubal Pink had, you know, decorated the apartment that we were sharing with some like weird Halloween decorations from the dollar store. Greening pumpkins, plastic gravestones with like cartoon letters that said like R.I.P., fake spiders. You know, for most people, Halloween had long been over, so I didn't understand why he brought all this like plastic kind of Halloween crap into the apartment and set it up in the living room and on the coffee table, you know, and was having guests with all this like kind of kiddie stuff around, but yet still hadn't brought furniture, a bed, a desk, or whatever. Like, he had his computers and he had his luggage, but he didn't have furniture. And, you know, like, I was always at work, and I'm, you know, I consider him a friend. I'm like, oh, if you need to sleep, you can sleep in my bed. It's no problem. Certainly he had slept in my beds over the years when he had sublet or been my roommate temporarily. So it wasn't a thing. But again, this was like a 6-month span during which things were changing between me and Cousin Jubal Pink, as well as within the Cousin Jubal Pink psyche and world. You know, Halloween had long been over that year, but like the hell portrayed in Dante's classic work, The Inferno, Hollywood has many tempting circles in its landscape. You know, there definitely was a lot of, you know, high-end people and high-end experiences and high-end social climbing opportunities that I feel like Cousin Jubal Pink wanted to be part of, right? He went from being like, you know, kind of like a hardworking person who, you know, may have had a background going to swingers parties, may have had a background in computing as a younger person, as like a hacker, and getting onto the dark web and doing things on the dark web that, you know, are beyond research, right? You could procure brain enhancing drugs, for example, from, you know, vendors that have a, you know, kind of a Yelp style review available. And, you know, certainly in these days and times where you know, a few comedians here in Los Angeles just died over the weekend having used some drugs that were laced with fentanyl. Sometimes it can be safer to get drugs via the internet and the dark web than it can be from street dealers, because the temptation is great with street dealers who are kind of anonymous. Maybe they're just a phone number, but you know, they don't have reviews that people keep track of. They don't have the level of responsibility. So if they want to cut product with baby laxative or fentanyl or horse tranquilizer, God knows what, baby powder, cornstarch, in powdered donuts, in certain other kinds of drugs, it can be very dangerous. Um, you know, and if you get into that world, not only of brain enhancing drugs or illegal recreational drugs, things can go left. You know, we just lost Michael K. White, I believe, and we just lost the comedian, I think his name was Fuquan, and two other people, uh, you know, got involved in using drugs that were procured, however, I'm guessing from street dealers. But, you know, it can happen when you're dealing with unregulated substances that you can put yourself into worse jeopardy. So, you know, if you're capable of going a safer route, if you're capable of harm reduction, you know, whether that's using protection when you're at an adult, shall we say, group sporting activity party, or you know, using a clean needle or a needle of your own, or um, just taking steps to be safer and save yourself from disease. Or I think one of the things you can get if you use like drugs that are cut, or like necrosis, you can have the tips of your ears and part of your skin start turning black. You know, the tissue will die basically from impurities in these substances. There's a lot of really great talents that Cousin Jubal Pink came to Hollywood with, and knowledge and skill and computing and hacking and the dark web and all those things, and his looks and his, you know, abilities as a yogi, abilities as an adventurous, shall we say, sensual person with a certain aesthetic, a certain attractiveness. All those things were good and good for him. But, you know, what we're going to get into is a discussion of these different tempting circles in the hellscape that some would say is Hollywood. So thank you for joining me in this episode. You know, this is the unfortunate tale of Hollywood scammer hat and my cousin Jubal Pink, and you know how this all started. It started with me finding him not at work but sleeping in a closet. It started with me running into him on Thanksgiving Day at 9 o'clock, well, the day after Thanksgiving, at 9 o'clock in the morning, when he'd obviously been out all night, when he was dressed in a brocade tuxedo jacket with stovepipe skinny jeans or trousers on, beautiful pointy shoes, you know, spending a lot of money, going out, being around fancy people, being around famous people, talented people, directors, actors, etc. What I didn't know at the time, when I ran into him at Las Palmas, where the Pretty Woman movie motel is, and Hollywood Boulevard, you know, what was curious is that he avoided me, kind of danced around to try to see if I didn't see him, but I'd already seen him and I saw him doing that, like kind of trying to avoid me. But, you know, I was waiting for a light and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to say, hey, what's going on? So when I did, you know, it was shocking to see him fully dressed for night in the early morning, right? 9 o'clock a.m. It's time to shop the day after Thanksgiving. But he clearly had a full face and a full head of makeup on, and he, you know, always shaved his head. Like a lot of black men, they just shave their hair all off. All he had was facial hair and the eyebrows. But in the bright light, you know, makeup oxidizes when it's been on your face. I could see that from collar to collar, he had covered his ears, everything with makeup. And also in the bright light, I could see that he had like abrasion scars on his head, and then also some, you know, scarring from picking at his skin. Now, what kinds of things do people get into where they pick at their skin, or they might have necrosis or abrasions or whatever? um, you know, I'll say it's not healthy things that lead to that, but you know, again, in our next episode of this series called Hollywood Scammer Hat, Cousin Jubal Pink Edition, we're gonna get into, you know, all the various scenes that Cousin Jubal Pink was involved in. You know, the goth scene, Satanism, fetish scenes, burlesque, B&D, BDSM, dominatrix, illicit scenes, underground scenes, and more. But, you know, Dante talked about 9 circles of hell, and you can find all that and more here in Hollywood. Because when people decide to put on their Hollywood scammer hat, things can go left. And, you know, thank you for joining me. We're going to get into more of this story in the next episode. And have a great night. I have early call time tomorrow, so I'll be seeing you on the B side of this record album. Thanks a lot. Bye.